Welcome, sports fans, to your NCAA football Week 6 recap. Excuse my voice and coughing every now and then because I am sick right now, and I'm recording this at 2 a.m. Let's dive right into it with number 1. Alabama played Texas A&M this week. Alabama had a solid 17-3 lead at halftime. They both had a touchdown in the third quarter, and Alabama was still in the lead 24-10. Texas A&M actually scored a touchdown with 17 seconds left, so Alabama only won 27-19. Alabama remains number 1. Number 2, Clemson played Wake Forest. Clemson had a 14-0 lead after the first quarter. They scored another touchdown, and they kept shutting down Wake Forest to have a 21-0 lead after 3 quarters. Wake Forest actually put up a bit of a fight in the fourth quarter, but Clemson held on to win 28-14. Clemson remains number 2 in the country. Number 3, Oklahoma played Iowa State this week. Oklahoma started this game with a 97% win probability. They led 14-3 after the first quarter. They had a good lead of 24-13 at halftime. Iowa State kicks a field goal, and then scores a touchdown and pulls off the 2-point conversion to tie the game 24-24 after the third quarter. Iowa State scores a touchdown with 12:46 left to put them in the lead 31-24. Oklahoma scores a touchdown with 7 minutes left to tie it 31-31. And Iowa State scores a touchdown with 2 minutes left to go ahead 38-31. And they hold on to that to have one of the biggest upsets we'll see in this college football season. Iowa State with a massive upset, 38-31. Oklahoma falls to number 12 now. Penn State, number 4 Penn State played against Northwestern. Penn State had a 10-0 lead at halftime. Saquon Barkley scored 2 rushing touchdowns in the third quarter, and Penn State continued to put up the numbers to win 31-7. And Penn State obviously moves up a spot to fill Oklahoma's absence. They're now number 3 in the country. Number 5, Georgia played against Vanderbilt. Georgia led 21-7 at halftime, and then Georgia exploded in the third quarter to score 17 points and take the lead 38-7. Georgia ended up winning 45-14, and they're going to move up to number 4 in the country. Number 6, Washington played against California. Washington started this game with a 96% win probability. They led 24-0 at halftime, and they continued to stomp and get the win 38-7. Washington moves up to number 5. Number 7, Michigan played against Michigan State in a big rivalry game. Michigan State came out hot, and they had a 14-3 lead at halftime. Michigan did score a touchdown in the third quarter, and they were still down 14-10. And surprisingly, nobody was able to score for the rest of the game. Michigan gets the ball 6 more chances. They're down by 4, and they have 6 chances to score. They throw 3 interceptions in the third and fourth quarters, and they fail to score for the rest of the game, giving Michigan State a big 14-10 upset. That's right, 2 top 10 schools that were playing at home fell this week. Michigan State jumps into the top 25 at number 21, and Michigan falls 10 spots all the way to number 17. Number 8, TCU played against number 23, West Virginia. TCU had a 7-3 lead at halftime. TCU kicks a field goal, and then both teams each scored 2 touchdowns in the third quarter. For a big, explosive third quarter, TCU held on to a 24-17 lead. West Virginia actually scored with 9:50 left in the game to tie it at 24-24. Then TCU scored with about 3 minutes left to take the lead 31-24, and TCU held that lead to win 31-24. TCU moves up to number 6 in the country, and West Virginia falls out of the top 25. Number 9, Wisconsin played against Nebraska. Wisconsin led 10-0 after the first quarter. Then they only had a 17-10 lead at halftime. Each team was able to score a touchdown, and Wisconsin still only had a narrow lead, 24-17 after the third quarter. Then Wisconsin had a big fourth quarter. They scored 2 touchdowns. They get the win, 38-17. And Wisconsin moves up to number 7. Number 10, Ohio State had a matchup against Maryland. Ohio State started that game with a 97% win probability, the same as Oklahoma when they lost to Iowa State. But Ohio State took care of business, scored 3 touchdowns in the first quarter, and then scored 3 touchdowns in the second quarter to lead 41-7 at halftime. Ohio State wins that game 62-14. They move up to number 9. Number 11, Washington State had a big matchup against Oregon this week. Oregon led 10-7 after the first quarter. Washington State was able to kick a couple field goals and have a 13-10 lead at half. Washington State had a solid third quarter as they got into the lead 23-10, and they continued to dominate in the fourth quarter, and they get a 33-10 victory. Washington State jumps all the way up to number 8 in the country now. Number 12, Auburn played against Ole Miss. Auburn started this game with a 95% win probability. They score 5 touchdowns in the first half to take a 35-3 lead. Auburn holds on to win 44-23. They're going to move into the number 10 spots. Number 13, Miami had an exciting game against Florida State. Florida State had a 3-0 lead at halftime. Miami then scored 10 points in the third quarter to lead 10-3. Florida State scored a touchdown with 12 minutes left. The game was tied 10-10. Florida State then kicked a field goal, 7 minutes left. They were in the lead 13-10. Miami scored a touchdown with 5 minutes left. They're in the lead 17-13. Florida State scored a touchdown with a minute 24 left to take the lead 20-17. And then with 6 seconds left, Miami scores a touchdown. They win the game 24-20. Dramatic victory, especially for a game that was 3-0 at halftime. Miami moves up to number 11 in the country. Number 14, USC played against Oregon State. USC started that game with a 98% win probability. They had a big 21-3 lead at halftime, and they ended up cruising to win that game 38-10. USC moves up to number 13. Number 16, Virginia Tech played against Boston College. Number 15, Oklahoma State, I forgot to mention, is on a bye week, and they actually move up to 14. Va-Tech had a nice 17-3 lead at halftime against Boston College, and it was a quiet second half as they get the victory 23-10. Virginia Tech moves up to number 15. Number 17, Louisville, had a good matchup against number 24, NC State. Nobody was able to score in the first quarter, and then it was a busy second quarter as NC State had a 17-10 lead. NC State continued to play well. They had a 24-13 lead after the third quarter. Louisville scored a touchdown with 13 minutes left in the fourth. They failed the 2-point conversion that was trying to make it a 3-point game, and they are down 5, 24-19. NC State scores a touchdown with 10 minutes left. They go for the 2-point conversion to make it a big, unreachable scoreline, and they are up 32-19. Louisville then scores a touchdown with 4 minutes left. Their extra point is blocked, so they're actually down 7 instead of 6, but they're still down 32-25. NC State then scores a touchdown to secure the win at 39-25. NC State moves up to number 20 in the country. Louisville has fallen out of the top 25. Number 19, San Diego State. Oh, actually, number 18, South Florida, USF. They had a bye week. They're going to stay at number 18 for you. San Diego State played against UNLV. They had a nice 20-10 lead at halftime, and then San Diego State exploded in the second half, scoring 3 touchdowns to give them a 41-10 victory. San Diego State stays at number 19. Number 20, Utah played Stanford. Utah had a 7-3 lead after the first quarter, but then Stanford rallied back to have a 13-10 lead at halftime. Both teams kick a field goal in the third quarter. Stanford still leads only 16-13. Stanford then scored a touchdown in the fourth, and even though Utah did score a touchdown with 43 seconds left, Stanford held on to get a close win there, 23-20. That drops Utah out of the top 25, and that actually moves Stanford up to number 23. So Stanford breaks into the top 25. Notre Dame, number 21, got to play against North Carolina. Nobody was able to score in the first quarter, but Notre Dame did then have a 16-7 lead at halftime. Notre Dame then rallied to get a big win, 33-10, and they actually jump very high in the rankings. They move up from number 21 to number 16. Number 22, skipped that one. Number 22, Florida played against LSU this week. LSU had a 10-3 lead at halftime, and then LSU actually scored at the third quarter to lead 17-3. Florida then scores back-to-back touchdowns in the third quarter, but they miss the extra point on the second touchdown. They are down 17-16. And despite the game was supposed to be tied 17-17, Florida gets the ball 3 chances in the fourth quarter. They can't score any points. LSU wins 17-16. LSU is still outside of the top 25, but so is Florida now, as Florida falls out of the top 25. Number 25, UCF played against Cincinnati. UCF had a big first half. They scored 5 touchdowns to lead 37-16 at halftime. And then in the third quarter, the game's actually rained out. And I'm not 100% sure if they're going to keep playing that game or if they actually just called it. But UCF was up 51-23, and it looks like they're winning that. And the UCF gets to move up to number 22 in the top 25. Now there are 2 new spots available in the top 25. Let's see who rose to take those spots. Texas Tech played against Kansas. Texas Tech had a big first half. They scored 5 touchdowns in the first half to lead 35-10. Then they top it, or they don't top it, but they keep up the pace and score 4 touchdowns in the second half for a 9-touchdown performance. And they win 65-19 against Kansas. And that's a good enough performance to put them at number 24 going into next week. Navy played against Air Force in an exciting game. Navy scores 4 touchdowns in the first half. They have a nice 28-10 lead at halftime. Navy loses a little bit of that lead, but they're up 38-24 after the third quarter. Air Force scores a touchdown with 11 minutes left. They're still down 38-31. Navy kicks a field goal with 6 minutes left in the game to make it a 10-point lead at 41-31. Air Force is able to score a touchdown with 4 minutes left in the game, but they are still down 41-38. Air Force then backs it up with another touchdown with 2 minutes left. They're now in the lead 45-41, and Navy comes back with 15 seconds left in the game. They score a touchdown of their own. They win 48-45. They are currently undefeated at 5-0, and that's good enough to put them at number 25 in the country now. Now we're going to take a look at our new AP Top 25 and see who they're playing in Week 7. Number 1, Alabama plays against Arkansas at home. Number 2, Clemson travels on the road to play Syracuse. Number 3, Penn State is on the bye week. Number 4, Georgia is going to be at home against Missouri. Number 5, Washington goes on the road to play Arizona State. Number 6, TCU goes on the road to play Kansas State. Number 7, Wisconsin plays a home game against Purdue. Number 8, Washington State goes on the road to play Cal. Number 9, Ohio State goes on the road against Nebraska. Number 10, Auburn goes on the road against LSU, which should be an exciting game. Number 11, Miami plays against Georgia Tech. Number 12, Oklahoma looks to bounce back in a big rivalry game against Texas. Number 13, USC plays a tough opponent in Utah. Number 14, Oklahoma State comes off the bye week to play Baylor. Both number 15, Va Tech, and number 16, Notre Dame are on bye weeks. Number 17, Michigan goes on the road to play Indiana. Number 18, South Florida gets to play in Cincinnati. Number 19, San Diego State has a tough matchup against Boise State. Number 20, NC State gets to play on the road against Pittsburgh. New entry, number 21, Michigan State gets to play on the road against Minnesota. UCF has a home game against East Carolina. New entry, number 23, Stanford has a home game against Oregon, which should be exciting. Number 24, new entry, Texas Tech is on the road against West Virginia. West Virginia, if they're able to win that game, they're going to come right back into the top 25. So this is going to be a winner-stays situation. That's going to be a great game. And new entry, number 25, Navy, has to go on the road and play Memphis. So that's your top 25 going into Week 7 right now. Now we're actually going to take a look at all the major conferences. We're going to have a nice look at who are the favorites to win the conferences. There are a lot of teams that still have a shot of winning the SEC. Number 1, Alabama has a strong 53% chance to win the conference and a 65% chance to get into that college football playoff. Number 4, Georgia has a 29% chance to win the conference. They're probably going to win if Alabama can't. And a 33% chance to get into that playoff. Number 10, Auburn is a 14% chance to win the SEC, as well as a 12% chance to make the playoff. Florida, hanging out outside the top 25, still has a solid 2% chance to win the conference. And LSU, Kentucky, of all teams, Texas A&M, and Mississippi State, not Ole Miss, but Mississippi State, all combined have a 2% chance to win the SEC. So there's a 1 in 25 chance that Florida, LSU, Kentucky, Texas A&M, or Mississippi State gets crowned the SEC champion. Moving on to the Pac-12, it's a little less complicated. Number 5, Washington, is the leader right now with a 44% chance to win the Pac-12 and a 43% chance to get into that playoff. It's looking tough for number 13 USC, as they have a 27% chance to win the conference and only a 10% chance to make that playoff. Number 8, Washington State as well. Only an 11% chance to win the conference and only a small 11% chance to make that playoff. Number 23, Stanford, holding on to a slim chance and a 9% shot of winning the Pac-12, as well as a 3% chance of getting into the playoff. Utah, holding on to a solid 1% shot of winning the Pac-12. And Oregon, still not mathematically eliminated, has a less than 1% shot of winning the Pac-12. Moving on to the ACC. Number 2, Clemson, has a 50% shot of winning their conference and a 56% chance of being able to make the playoffs, but they have a lot of tough competition. Number 11, Miami, has a 27% chance to win the ACC and a 17% shot of making the playoffs. Number 20, NC State, has a 12% chance to win the conference, and they're holding on to a little 4% shot of making the playoff. Number 15, Virginia Tech, has a 6% chance to win the conference and a 3% chance to make the playoffs. And Georgia Tech, surprisingly, outside the top 25, has a 4% chance still to win the conference and a 1% chance to make the playoff. And then Florida State, not mathematically eliminated, but they have a less than 1% chance of winning the ACC. Moving on to the Big Ten. Number 9, Ohio State, leading the pack with a 39% chance of winning the Big Ten and a 28% chance of making the playoff. Number 7, Wisconsin, 35% chance to win the conference, but a 30% chance to make the playoff. Number 3, Penn State, actually behind both of these guys with only a 23% chance to win the Big Ten and a 27% chance to make the playoff. Michigan is almost mathematically eliminated from winning the Big Ten, but they still have a 1% chance to make the playoffs. And number 21, Michigan State, with a less than 1% chance to win the Big Ten. So this conference is funny. It looks like between Ohio State, Wisconsin, and Penn State, whichever team wins the conference is going to be in the playoffs, and the other two are going to be left out of it. So mathematically speaking, that's what it looks like it's going to end up being. And surprisingly, Penn State is actually not the favorite to win the conference, as it looks like Ohio State and Wisconsin have higher odds, and maybe because they have easier remaining schedules. The last Power 5 conference, the Big 12. Number 6, TCU, has a 32% chance to win the Big 12 and an 18% chance to get into that playoff. Number 12, Oklahoma, has a 29% chance to win the Big 12, and they actually still have an 18% chance to make the playoff. Number 14, Oklahoma State, has a 17% chance to win the conference and an 8% chance to get into the playoff. Texas, currently unranked, has a 9% chance to win the Big 12 still. And number 24, Texas Tech, still has a 5% shot of winning the Big 12 and a little tiny 1% chance to make the playoff. Outside of the non-Power 5, I actually forgot to say shout out to 538.com for these percentages. 538.com is a fantastic website. Check them out. Outside of the Power 5 conferences, number 22, UCF, has a 41% chance to win their American Conference. And number 18, South Florida, has a 19% chance to win the American Conference. And number 25, Navy, has a 9% chance to win the American Conference. So there's 3 teams competing for that conference. And there's a 30% chance that somebody from outside of those three teams is able to snag the conference title. So that conference is wide open. Number 19, San Diego State, having a great year so far. They're undefeated. They only have a 50% chance to win the Mountain West, surprisingly. But their playoff chances are not looking good because their schedule is just too easy. Number 16, Notre Dame, is independent. But we're going to mention them because they have a slim 4% chance, if they can keep it going, to get into that college football playoff. And now we're going to wrap it up with a Heisman watch. Saquon Barkley from Penn State had a massive game. He's currently leading the pack for the Heisman. Bryce Love is right behind him. He had a great game. He's having a fantastic season. Running back from Stanford, and he's in the Heisman watch. Baker Mayfield has slipped down to number 3 on the Heisman watch as him, quarterback at Oklahoma. Didn't have a terrible game, but obviously the team lost. That doesn't look good. Luke Falk from Washington State did a great job carving up Oregon last week. He's at number 4. And at number 5 on the Heisman watch, Rashad Penny, the running back from San Diego State. Going under the radar, probably won't be able to win the Heisman, but he's having an insane season, and he's one heck of a running back. So that's your Heisman watch, and that's going to be your NCAA football Week 6 recap. Come back for Week 7 next week. Thank you for watching, sports fans. And go forth and spread beauty and light.